Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Yeah, welcome in to another rousing rendition of Libservative. We've got Bell the Bodysnatcher on the ones and twos, and we are two intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. He, as always, is Corey Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin.
And the world's coming to an end, so I don't understand why the hell we're doing the show right now.
Right,
Like,
the
don't we have
world is
better
coming
things to do?
into an end. But first, Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. Subscribe now, because apparently the doomsday clock is at 90 goddamn seconds, Dan. The closest it's ever been.
I don't even know if people are going to have a chance to download this show.
They got 90 seconds. If they have Bell's,
Doomsday
if they have Bell's internet connection, they're shit out of luck.
Bell, I don't know if you know this, but before you hopped on here, Corey and I were comparing you to like Eugene from Hey Arnold. You're just like a walking jinx.
You just keep having all these jinxes happen to you. My computer's great. No,
I can't even defend it. There's no defense to that. It's true.
You just wear a tin can on your head.
You're supposed to just say what Rosa Parks says. Nah.
I just need the weird hairdo now.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Your snake's losing his shit behind you there, Bell.
Oh no, she's been
or her.
Danger Noodle.
Yeah, she's been pretty social lately.
She was giving us a laugh riot there. I think she's like, yeah, you're right. He is a walking jinx.
I'm gonna bite his ass next time he opens this tank.
Well, Bell's
okay.
is flappier than a disc from the 80s. His snake is completely aroused.
Shh. Anyway, I'm really glad we could get that out of the way before we talk about the destruction of the planet, because I know we covered Israel-Palestine last week, and I feel like we kind of have to do it again. And I want to just warn the people one more time, because people get upset. People get upset when they think you're saying something that you're not. This is not expertise. This is more punditry. So like, chill the fuck out if you say something that you disagree with, or maybe even is wrong, because we get shit wrong, and it's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a million people that are covering this way better than we are. This is just basically our take on it, like how we feel about it, our reaction in real time to yet another atrocity that is occurring throughout the world.
What we are doing, Corey, is giving off our own attempt to grift off of tragedy. Everybody else gets to do it. Why the hell don't we?
Yeah, but we do it a little bit different. We bitch about the grifters.
And we also don't make any money.
Yeah, so it helps me sleep at night.
There's that point. There's that part of it. So today, or was it it was yesterday, right? Yesterday was the actual bombing of the hospital in Gaza.
That no one knows who did it.
Yeah, so this is where, like, the fact that whether you're talking about Ukraine or now you're talking about Israel-Palestine, this is where, like, social media wars are so unbelievably toxic to me, because you have this situation where, like, everything's kind of happening on social media, or, in Twitter and Instagram in real time. And it's like, oh, it's Elon's fault. Like, no, it's whoever's posting the shit's fault. Right. So you have these social media wars now where everybody's got to be first, to make this report. And I know the news, like the 24-hour news cycle, like cable news has been that way for a while, but they at least had like 20 minutes before they had to like go live to air with it. Social media is like, I got to be the first. I got to be the first to throw this out there. And so you have this situation where like the fog of war and the truth being the first casualty of war being, I mean, just exploded and magnified exponentially with these wars being on social media like the way that they are.
Yeah, and it's insane, right? Because like all the propaganda and everything going around, like you think you would have learned from the Ukraine war. Like me personally, my own personal anecdotal experience, when the Ukraine-Russia war came about, I was stoked about the whole Ghost of Kiev.
And it turned out to be bullshit.
I was stoked about the Snake Island way and the way those guys literally just plopped their 90-pound balls on the table and said, Russia, go fuck yourself. And when you find out that those were debunked, real fast you learn that the first, was it Erysipelas? Some guy from Greek, like the Roman Empire, like a philosopher way back in the day. He's the one that coined the phrase, the first casualty of war is truth.
Some Greek dude, yeah.
Some Greek dude said it. Smart bastards, smarter than any of us. He said that the first casualty of war is the truth. And that is very apparent right now, as evidenced by the most recent attack during the whole Hamas-Israel conflict, where
attack or self-imposed propaganda arm.
Right, because both sides are blaming the other. No one's taking blame for this. Hamas is going, well, we don't even have the technology to do that, but they also like to hide all of their missiles and bombs and rockets and stuff inside.
Yeah, and then the other side of that is the Israelis are going, well, we don't bomb
hospitals.
But they're also out of the other side of their mouth talking about how Hamas hides weapons in hospitals. So it's like if you're going for a strategic strike, and this is the issue here. Like,
and they've also lied. They've lied a lot.
Yes,
when it comes to all these different things. Look at the American Palestinian journalist. What's her name? Shireen Abdu something. I forget her name.
You just butchered her name, but I don't know it either. But that poor young lady that should still
look
be
up
alive.
The journalist that was killed in Palestine by the IDF.
And hopefully you can be a lot less American in your pronunciation of her name, because Corey and I clearly suck at Arabic names. But yeah, like this is a situation where you have two sides that historically lie. I mean, about that's what makes this so like sadly interesting is, and I do mean that like interesting in a sad way, because you have two sides that are constantly lying, and you've no idea who to believe. You just have two.
You just don't.
You have two. It's like a high school fight where both kids are like historically liars, and you're the teacher that's like, well, shit, how do I figure this out?
Or one of those fights where, the fight happens, and then the next day both kids are in school spinning their story of who actually won the fight.
Yeah,
Corey, you actually didn't do too bad.
Shireen
Abu Akleh.
I got her first name right, Shireen.
Shireen Abu Akleh. You did good.
Akleh. Yeah. So
Thanks,
then you have. So we've already talked about the social media war nonsense, but yeah, this is what happens when you have two sides to this conflict that are historical liars. And that's why we're not going to I didn't plan on coming on here and talking about the hospital bombing in a way that you see it portrayed throughout both new media and old media of like, let's try and figure out who did this when we just don't know under the fog of war. Stop trying to figure it out. Like, it's okay that you don't know. Let's figure it out. We have experts working on this.
It's disgusting how fast just the lines are drawn and like everyone just chooses a side. Like I was thinking about the other day, it's like how in the fuck like Americans are so goddamn like what's the word? Egomaniacal.
Egomaniacal?
Yeah, egomaniacal, and the exceptionalism that Americans have, that right now two sects of people who have been fighting for almost damn near 100 years over land based on a religious war that was then lines drawn by a British Empire are fighting over land, and then somehow that division comes back to America, and now America is arguing and fighting in the streets over two sides that are known to lie and kill each other.
Yeah, as the banner says, dude, like we suck. We absolutely suck as a society at empathy. We absolutely suck at putting ourselves in anybody else's shoes, because we draw these lines in the sand, and it does come from American exceptionalism. We are sitting here thousands of miles away from this conflict, to where we can just sit back and look at Twitter and see who's tweeting what and see who's saying what, and make our decisions based on basically nothing. I mean, basically nothing.
Actually did. So I just had, played devil's advocate. I just had a thought pop in my head. What if it isn't, we suck at empathy, but we're too empathetic, that mixed with the whole social justice warrior thing, that like, if you don't pick a side, you're not a good person. And everyone's rushing to pick the side that they believe is the good side, that they have to promulgate and have to get on their soapbox and yell to anyone who's listening that, hey, I'm a good person.
No.
This is why.
Corey, that's, first of all, to me, like, that's fake empathy, because what empathy is by definition is just your ability to put yourself in another person's shoes, whether you like them or dislike them. We fucking suck at that shit.
You only like to empathize with people that have the same beliefs as us. If you think like I do, then I can empathize with you. But if your beliefs differ, then I can't empathize with you, because
that's the American.
Not empathy.
No, that's not empathy. But that's our personal political divisions bleeding into a war that's on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
To me, empathy is logical, right? Like, we've talked about this in our chat thread for the last week and a half since this whole thing started, about like, yeah, I'm just against like babies dying. Like, I don't really give a shit whether it's an Arabic baby or a Jewish baby. I don't like the fact that babies are dying. And then like,
yeah, it's absolute bullshit that a couple people at the top get to decide who lives and who dies.
These people that it sounded like a Saw movie there. You decide. But I don't know. I think that it's really fucking simple for all of us, you, me, and Bell included, Corey, to sit here thousands of miles away and pick apart like who the bad guy is and who the good guys are, and like who deserves to die and who doesn't deserve to die. It's like some Hunger Game shit. I mean, to a degree, right? It's some Hunger Game shit where we just sit here and go, oh man, we just got to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth. And I sit there and I go, okay, that just sounds
like the most convenient thing, because it goes,
right, but hold on. That statement where it's like, would we like to wipe the idea of Islamic extremism off the face of the earth? I mean, I guess I'm all for that, but like, there's another side to the story of like, how does somebody become an Islamic extremist? And the answer just is it's really fucking complicated. It's simple, but it's also complicated. It's the Pat Buchanan, like, if we keep bombing these kids and killing their parents and their families, what do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to grow up and just come over to our side, or are they going to grow up and be resentful and again become Islamic extremists? And it's like, what comes first,
and
man?
Flip it. You think a lot of Jewish kids right now are going to trust Palestinians when they grow up and they become in power in their Israeli state?
No, and it's like, how do you think perpetual war just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going? Like, so this is an interesting thought, because you have a lot of folks on the American right now, and I don't really have a problem when they say this. So I don't want anybody who's more right leaning to think that I'm shitting on this idea. But like you have people on the American right that talk about religion as if it's so great and it's like it gives you purpose and it does all of these great things for you. And I've seen it. Like Corey, you have some pretty religious people in your family. I have some pretty religious people in my family, and like they're better human beings since they found their faith. And I have no issue with that. I think that's fantastic if it works for you, right? But what they always miss is the fact that at the end of the day, Hamas and the Israelis would not be fighting right now if it wasn't for fucking religion. Like, it's got its dark side, right? It's got its ugly side. And like to just completely dismiss that makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, it's not necessarily just religion. It's when the religion gets mixed up in politics and all of that stuff, you know, like it's a fucking mess over there. And like everyone doesn't have a goddamn clue. And if you listen to our last episode, you can hear us just try our legitimate best at trying to make sense of all of this.
We can't.
But you can't.
Yeah.
Because any professional or any person you hear talk about it, they're typically on one side or the other. And they're giving their biased opinion. When at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck whatever side you're on. Innocent people are dying over a war propagated by elitists at the top of either one side of the pillar or the other of this Abrahamic religion that are both there fighting over land and the right to survive, because in the 1940s, the British Empire decided to go, all right, Jews, here's your land, deal with it. Right?
I mean, and then the Israelis won a war. And again, like we can go back to, I hate to like really recap what we talked about last week, but we go back to like this idea of being a Jew and historically, at least in modern contemporary history, not having a land to call your own. Because when the anti-Semitism comes out and you don't have a place to turn, it's a fucking scary proposition. And I get that. And I think you get that. And I think Bell gets that. However, there's also the scenario where like the UN comes in, the British Empire comes in and just fucking takes land away from Muslim landowners.
It's because it's all they knew how to do.
But it's just, and then just gives it to these other people. Like, it's like, you can understand how like it would be resentful. And that's actually a great, you would be resentful. And that's actually a great transition, because I one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight was kind of a thought process that I had over the last week, which is this idea of logical rationalization versus moral rationalization. Like, you can look at a situation and see why logically Hamas would exist, why Hamas would be resentful and hateful and even engage in attacks against Israelis.
Yeah.
And actually, not condone it. But like, but it is a rational, or I'm
put
sorry,
a pin in that thought, Dan, because actually, as you say that, the logical outcome of Hamas existing, it's still comparing apples to oranges, but it's comparatively to the incarnation of the Republican Party. The Republican Party was put in place in America because the Whig Party was full of pussies, and the Democratic Party was beating the shit out of the Whig Party over and over and over and over again, threatening them with guns and knives and sticks and clubs.
Yeah, physically
on the floor in the House and in the Senate, to the point where the Republican Party showed up and they're like, well, we'll fight them. And that's how they became the second party. Mm-hmm. That's why you always see the pictures of Abraham Lincoln with his fists up trying to punch, because those guys are willing to go in there and beat the shit out of Democrats.
Also,
and then what did that lead to?
Fun
Dan?
fact:
what did
Abraham
that lead to?
Was actually a boxer. Fun fact.
What did that lead to? The fucking civil war. What's happening in Israel? A fucking civil war.
More or less. Yeah.
Now, again, that is comparing apples to oranges. They aren't exactly identical, but you can see the logical end run of where Hamas does become into power.
Yeah, you can have a logical rationalization of why something's taking place, understanding how we got here without
And this isn't me advocating Hamas.
No, that's you just brought up my whole point. Logical rationalization versus moral rationalization. You're not morally rationalizing Hamas rolling into Israel and fucking, beheading babies, which now is.
But I can see destination A to destination B and how that lines up, and it's like, okay, that logically that ultimately does make sense of how we got here.
Yes, yeah, and it's not, but because that's what you end up getting. Like when you try to say that exactly what we just said to like a pro-Israel.
I'm a terrorist apologist.
No, yeah, or you're engaging in moral equivalency, and I'm like, I don't think I mentioned like what my moral stance is on how this happened. I'm just talking about logically. I understand why this happened.
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly
good. Doesn't mean I support it.
And people like to convolute the two together. They mix their feelings with the facts, Dan.
They mix their feelings with the facts. Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, no, it's all fucked. And it's
that kind of brings me to the next point though, Corey.
It's all fucked. And then like now you're seeing a bunch of Republicans who cried and whined about cancel culture. Fucking advocating cancel culture. Because you have a bunch of these young dumbasses who literally how we just talked about how no one really knows what the fuck's going on over there. Everyone just trying to jump to a side because they feel like that's the side that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And the knowledge that the information that's given to them, and a lot of it probably isn't little silos and echo chambers of where they get their facts from. You got a bunch of people who with the messaging is like a little bit clunky, but like their hearts are in the right place of saying the Palestinians shouldn't be killed and being carpet bombed.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with them. They shouldn't be. And so they're out there protesting and stuff like that at Harvard and Yale and stuff like that. And then all of these people who were so against the cancel culture are now trying to blacklist and come after these just young college kids who just think they're on the right side, who are like basically calling for another Kent State.
Dude,
just asking people to go mow them down because they're saying things that make other people uncomfortable.
It's what we talk about all the time. Like and
you know who the only one that came out against that is on the Republican side?
Oh, let me guess, because I don't know the answer to this. I'm gonna
say he's a Republican candidate for president.
Oh, Trump? Or DeSantis? No. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yep. Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy said that while he vehemently disagrees with what they're protesting, you don't dox them and put them on blacklists because they're a bunch of students and their kids that are out there just letting their heart do their thinking.
Doing what
and is that wrong? No,
done.
Necessarily it's not. But if you have a funnel of information coming from just Al Jazeera or just something like that, then obviously you think Israel's the devil. And if you have your silo of information coming from just Fox News or any other right-leaning, or even MSNBC, who is fucking getting rid of anchors that are Muslim and silencing them, then you would think Israel's the one that you're supposed to follow. When both sides have committed atrocities of war, both sides have committed war crimes, both sides have killed innocent people, and both sides are neither side's hands are clean in this war.
Yeah, and where do you and you can also acknowledge that the Israelis' treatment of Palestinians has been fucking atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also logically, the difference between logical and moral rationalization, you can logically rationalize why the Israelis might be afraid to the point where they feel like they have to push these people down to a certain degree. When it's
just going down the same fucking trail as the Roman Empire.
This is what
we have to expand our border to protect ourselves because the people in this area are trying to hurt us. But then as soon as you do that, then guess what? There's a new enemy on the other side of your border.
Yeah, and then you're spreading yourself thin. But I don't think we have to worry about that with Israel at this
No,
point.
no. They're completely landlocked by
Because it's like the size
like
of Jersey.
18 Arabic nations.
Yeah, so shit, I forgot where we were. Oh, I was gonna mention a little bit about like what does it take to finally turn yourself into a neo? Because it seems like at some point I'm not gonna mention her name, but there is you know who it is, Corey. There is a very, very well respected journalist that I have so much respect for. She's fucking fantastic. I'll just say she's Jewish, but because she's Jewish, that's why this is important. This war has brought her to the point, it seems like in her reporting, to the point where she would absolutely just like to blow Palestine off the face of the earth. She hasn't actively said that. She's too smart to say that, but it just gives me that feeling. And it's like, we're just against neoconservatism like 5 years ago. And it's just like, do we all have that threshold? Do we all have that neocon threshold?
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend that you or I are above it either, Dan.
I don't think we are. I am of Irish heritage, right? And I can guarantee you that if England decided they wanted to invade Ireland, I would be like, the United States needs to fucking step in. We got to go save the Irish people. 100%. I'm dead serious when I say that.
If any feds are listening, Dan is not a part of the IRA.
I have not contributed any money to the IRA.
So for the people that's listening, I just kind of side-eyed Dan on that one. But that's an interesting comparison, right? The Protestants and the Catholics.
Yeah.
Oh, bloody wars. The Troubles is what they call them. You know, when Northern Ireland was Protestant, Southern Ireland was Catholic, and they were going to war over territory, over an empire coming out of their land. And if you talk to people who are from South Ireland, they will unequivocally tell you, "Fuck the crown."
It's not South Ireland. It's just Ireland.
Right. No, I think there's still Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland is still part of the crown, but it's literally the size of my foot.
Yeah. Oh, you mean okay, so the size of Gaza.
It's like where Belfast is. And that might even be smaller than Gaza. No, it's probably not true. That's probably not true.
But you understand the comparison.
Look that up, Bell. Land size comparison between Northern Ireland and Gaza. I'm going to guess Gaza's smaller.
I can tell you right now that Gaza is much smaller than Northern Ireland.
It has to be because
the Gaza Strip is only 25 miles north and south, and then at its widest, it's 3 miles. So it's probably
northern.
It's 60 square miles.
And then Northern Ireland's the size of Rhode Island. I think I could be wrong about that, but yeah, they're both small areas.
Yeah,
and one of them is considerably more population dense than the other.
Yeah, Gaza has a population density equivalent to Japan.
I don't know. That was kind of a weird tangent that we just went on there.
It's just, the way my mind works is just metaphors, similes, and.
Can we talk about the neocons for a minute, though?
Yeah, let's get back to that.
Because this is fucked up, right? In the way that so many people can't see what's happening here. Because how long ago was 9/11? 22 years ago, a little over.
Yeah,
over 22 years ago was 9/11.
What would that be? 22 years, 1 month, and
7 days.
7. Yep. Math is hard, man.
And it's just it's within our lifetimes. I mean, I was in 8th grade when this took place, when 9/11 took place. I remember it pretty goddamn well, and I don't remember the rhetoric that went on afterwards per se, because I was a kid enjoying being a kid.
Oh no, Dan, we were all united against brown people.
No, but I remember that, right? I remember the fucking, and I'm proud to be an American on every fucking radio station for 7 days.
We put a boot in their ass because it's the American way. And Uncle Sam put his name in the top of your list.
Here comes
everyone
Tony,
hated the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, and like, but like, you know what I'm talking about. Like geopolitically, like it's impossible for us to remember like the timeline of like how we went from let's go take out Al Qaeda, which makes even today makes complete sense, right? Like fucking kill the people that did this to us. But then like how that turned into we have to invade Iraq.
Like, yeah, like a bunch of Saudi Arabians hijacked planes and crashed them into our like financial center in the middle of New York. And so in response, we have to invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Don't ask questions, Dan.
Yeah, because somebody
makes
just
you a
said,
terrorist sympathizer.
Because Donald Rumsfeld just said that, like, hey, Saddam Hussein is training Al Qaeda. It's like, okay, sounds good. Let's just roll in, and like
they're making WMDs.
Not enough people questioned it, or maybe they did. Like maybe if that was going on in 2023, like we'd see a lot more like Twitter analytics about that or analysis about that. But like,
yeah, propaganda's actually no. I was gonna say before this war or even the war with Ukraine, I was gonna say propaganda is a lot harder now, but it's really not.
It's not because everything's fake. You have. But now you have
just look at the Israeli country's Twitter feed when they were posting fake videos saying that it was Hamas that bombed the hospital, and then they had to take it down.
Right, and we still don't know, and we're not speculating. But like, I look at that, and
because we really don't know.
I look at the 9/11 playbook, and you still have the same goddamn people pulling out of the 9/11 playbook. How many fucking shows does Lindsey Graham have to go on talking about how, we have this new threat, and you basically have Lindsey Graham making excuses because of this war between Israel and Palestine to attack Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes back to your point, like, hey, Al-Qaeda filled and a bunch of Saudis attacked the World Trade Center on 9/11. So let's go invade Iraq. Like these two things don't fucking go together. They don't compute.
Hamas, the Palestinian elected government, is attacking Israel. So we need to go to war with Iran.
Yeah, because they might be providing them with funds. Like, do you not like? I don't.
But we're also funding the Palestinian people $100 million for food aid, and then also funding Israel. But we have to go to war with Iran.
I wish it wasn't as funny as it is.
It's just so dumb. All of it. And you know what? I was thinking about this when I was taking a shower. Just thinking about
God, I thought you were taking a shit.
No, I was taking a. I was taking a shit in the shower. Actually, I waffle stomped that shit through the drain. But
it's like some Mia Khalifa shit right there. She never did poop porn, did she? I don't know.
I don't think Mia Khalifa did, but she got canceled.
And she did because she's an idiot.
But. It's but yeah, just thinking about the fact that I lost my train of thought on that one. Now my mind is just
we started talking about poop porn and it was gone. It was gone from there. Lindsey Graham.
The gigabytes in my RAM drive in my head, Dan.
No, but like
256 megabytes.
It is a legitimate concern though, right? When you have people like Lindsey Graham using the 9/11 playbook to possibly get us getting into a war with Iran. And then you have this Axios piece that came out, I think earlier today. It was either earlier today or yesterday, where the Biden administration is already getting ready for the possibility of Hezbollah invading Israel from the north, from Lebanon, and preparing to have to mobilize troops in that scenario. Like, how much American support do you think this is going to have? And it gets that conspiracy theory brain going in your head, because it's like, okay, well, now you have the mainstream media, you have the cable news media that's just, thumping Israel, talking about how Israel has the right to defend themselves, and they do, right? We're not talking about the logistics of whether or not they should be able to defend themselves. We're talking about what is the propaganda, whether true or not. I mean, propaganda, I know it's got a negative connotation, but propaganda can be true, right? So you have this, you have this propaganda machine in the news talking about how Israel's good. They should have the ability to defend themselves. And then you have the possibility of Hezbollah invading. And it's like, are you trying to put it in the heads of the American people that we should go to war? Like, this playbook has worked before. It has worked before. Now, if you have, God forbid, a terrorist attack in the United States, I hope to God that doesn't happen. But like, imagine if it does. Imagine if that happened. How many people would immediately jump on board with sending troops to Israel and Palestine, and we have an actual holy war take place?
Yeah. Which I'm surprised more people aren't calling for, because it was a Christian hospital that was bombed. Which just adds more complication to it.
Is that true, or is that propaganda?
No, that's
We'll
true.
find out.
It was a Christian hospital. We don't know who bombed it, but it was a Christian hospital.
I don't know. I give up. I kind of want to stop talking about this at this point. We're 36 minutes in.
Yeah, we've said what we want to say about this between last week's episode and this week's episode. And if you want to hear more of our thoughts on it in the clunkiest way possible, go ahead and listen to last week's episode.
What do you want to move on to next, Corey?
Let's move on to your topic, because I don't know shit about this one.
Mr. Speaker who? This is not that complicated. We still don't have a Speaker of the House.
We're about a month away from the government shutting down.
Jim Jordan has gone now through 2 votes and actually lost votes.
Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries is the one getting the most votes right now.
So, okay,
I do know that.
This is what drives me. I'm actually going to give some credit, because we shit on Ben Shapiro a little bit earlier, but I'm actually going to give him a little bit of credit here, because he did have a tweet about a week ago that I think you sent me, Corey. I don't remember if it was you or Bell, about how maybe it's not the best idea to just like do the Leroy Jenkins thing and just oust your speaker with no fucking replacement. Like, maybe that's just not the best.
Leroy Jenkins.
And I'm like, wow, that's actually Ben Shapiro at his funniest. But he's right. And like, that's the issue that I have with fucking Republicans, man. It's like, I don't even necessarily have an issue with conservatism or any of that, but like, this party is just so unbelievably just at each other's throats. And like, there's a point to be made that like, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that this party is at each other's throats. Like what Matt Gaetz said about McCarthy and getting him out, and how milquetoast he is and how weak of a leader he is. I did not disagree with Matt Gaetz
in that one statement.
Yeah, getting rid of and not to mention, like, you'll never know this listening to more lefty media, but like, Matt Gaetz defended Ilhan Omar before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's neither here nor there, but he can be very, very logical at certain parts. But I look at this and I go, one of the hopes, I think, and it was very short-lived, but one of the hopes I think that was going to happen was that we were going to have maybe a more centrist speaker. Like, maybe you could put forth a candidate that, like, the kind of the center of the Republican Party and the center of the Democratic Party would vote for.
Who would that be? Like, what, Joe Manchin? Oh, he's a senator, though.
I mean, it would be like, it wouldn't be him, but it would be like a Romney type of Republican. I think it would be like this more kind of center right Republican, and if you could just get Democrats to vote for that person, like we'd be all set. But then you have like these dyed-in-the-wool Democratic publications that want to talk about, well, no Republicans voted for Nancy Pelosi in whatever it was, 2017 or before that. And I go, yeah, that's okay. So we're just going to play this. I know you are.
Hag who had a lot of baggage.
She did.
I know, Dan. You just want to see those dirty pillows so bad.
Miraculous titties. Anyway, like, but what, like, this is the biggest issue, right? What is it with this? I know you are, but what am I game? I'm not saying that anybody in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party would like somehow make a great Speaker of the House, would somehow be great at running the House, but it so aptly points out the issue with the two-party system right here, where it's just like, oh, it's a Republican. Not going to support it. Make you guys work it out. Like, forget actually running a government.
Right.
Actually figuring out a way to cohesively and run a government well. No, it's a Republican. We're not going to vote for it. We're not going to vote for that.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, the Democrats just as bad in this bullshit game. Like, they knew that, like I said, in 23 days, the government's about to shut down, and military, the very military that they're all talking about wanting to send to Israel, isn't going to get paid.
No, they'll extend this stay on the budget. Like, that's just what they do. They just keep kicking the can down the road. That's what Congress always does. It's like the only thing they're good at is taking every fucking soup can and kicking it all the way down the alley. That's the only thing they do well. They'll do it again. If there's no budget. Or if there's no speaker. I'm sorry. By the time a budget needs to be decided. So, I mean, that's really all I had. Like, we still don't have a speaker. It's funny that Jim Jordan actually lost votes, even though I personally, being a small L libertarian, former liberal with still liberal values, kind of goofball, I don't even know how to label myself at this point. I think Jim Jordan would be an interesting choice. I think we mentioned that a couple weeks ago before the the craziness in Israel went down. But I think he would I would be intrigued to see how that would go.
It'd probably just be the same bullshit show that we've always been seeing. Like,
it's why I think Homeboy said in our comments during that show, he was guaranteeing that Donald Trump will be the next Speaker of the House. In a weird way, I'm kind of rooting for it. Like, it's not going to happen.
I'd like to see Justin Amash.
Well, of course. I mean, that would be the ideal.
Get an independent in there.
It's never going to. Here's why that can't happen. First of all, it would be too good of a solution. But second of all, you're not going to get a Democrat to vote for. If you can't get a Democrat to vote for like a Romney type center-right candidate, you think you're going to get a Democrat to vote for an independent Justin Amash? Like, that's almost worse to Democrats.
You're probably right.
Doesn't make sense, but it's. I think it's the truth.
No, they just keep voting for Hakeem Jeffries.
I hate it.
Knowing that it's not even going to pass, they're just like, well, we're obviously not going to vote for any Republican.
Still no speaker.
I'll drink to that.
That was all I had.
Here's to an incompetent government, damn.
Yeah, that's somehow
going to
send it.
We're going to have to keep paying our taxes.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this already, so I don't even know if we have to talk about this one, to the blacklisting of college students, because we kind of covered it. You want to talk about Biden's border barricade?
Biden's border barricade. Isn't this interesting, right? So this actually kind of ties into the Israeli Palestinian conflict, because you have people on the right, particularly the religious right, that are completely shifting their own script when it comes to, as you said in the our last little banner there about trying to blacklist college students and about how that's morally wrong. But now you also have Democrats flipping their script on a border wall when something actually affects them. This is why the two-party system sucks.
So the caveat is the reason for Biden's decision is that the money for the border wall construction was appropriated by Congress in 2019 during the Trump administration, and the Biden could not persuade Congress to redirect that money for other border spending. And he also claimed that he had no choice under the law but to use the money for what it was intended. Because the House has the purse.
No, I understand that, but isn't it interesting how, like, they stop fighting for this when you have quote unquote sanctuary cities actually finally having an issue with immigration?
Yeah, that right there still is just, it's, I don't want to say it's funny because whenever I laugh at these things and like joke about them, it's like if this wasn't a script and a show, it'd be absolutely fucking hilarious. It would be. It'd be fucking hilarious. I'd be like, oh my God, that's really funny. Like that just bit you in the ass. But I often have to bring myself back to reality and like realize that there's actual lives at stake and stakes and things like that. But the idea that these fucking cities thousands of miles away from the border were like, oh yes, fuck is, we wouldn't act like El Paso. If we had a bunch of immigrants here, we're a sanctuary city. We would not use our AG to try to kick them out. And then it happens and they're like, we need to get them the fuck out of here now.
Yeah. And a lot of that is because of dumb laws that don't allow immigrants to work. We've talked about that a little bit. But it's all that's what I hate about these discussions. It's all about like, where do we put them? Where do we put them? Like they're just like
not in my backyard. That's for damn sure.
They're like legitimately like they're fucking zoo animals. Like, do we move them to this zoo or that zoo? Where do we don't have enough room. There's too many.
Detroit Zoo does have nice enclosures.
But it's instead of just like talking about like where do we put them, you know, if you're on the left and you want to actually humanize them, stop talking about like where do we put them? Let's give them our house. Let's give them this apartment building. Let's give them this hotel. How about like
just the right to fucking work?
Let's figure out a way to get them to work legally with all of these vacant jobs that we have in the United States. Get them actually working. And I don't know, as much as I hate paying taxes, and I think it's, you know, I'm not a taxation and theft guy. I just hate the way taxes are collected in this country. But like, let's get them paying into the bullshit system that we pay into as well. And then we'll have enough money to send to Ukraine and Israel. It'd be perfect. It's a win-win-win-win-win for everyone.
Give the immigrants jobs and use their tax money to fund the border wall.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. That's a win-win.
Are you going to do some like some old school shit and be like, this is an immigrant tax. You have to pay more because you're an immigrant.
No, they pay the same. Just all of their taxes go to building a wall.
Well, they're going to work 80 hours a week. So there's going to be more money.
You like how I named it Biden's border barricade because he thinks the word wall is dirty?
Is it dirty? So do I have to, like, if I'm hanging a picture in my house, do I have to say that I'm hanging the picture on the barricade? Because that's a dirty word.
Yeah, walls are bad, Dan. So President Joe Biden had promised during his 2020 campaign that he would not build another foot of wall along the U.S. southern border. And it's just so funny how, like, all of these politicians, we talk about politicians always making empty promises. And this guy fucking knew. He was running in 2020 and the money was promised through the House of Representatives that this money was allocated for the border wall. And he goes, we're not going to build it. And then 3 years later, he goes, oh, well, we got to build it.
You know what I find so interesting about that? And like, so like, I think Trump at least was, I mean, I don't ever want to call Trump honest, but it was, there was just like some, how do I want to put this? You at least knew exactly what Trump's intentions were, right? He was like, let's build this wall. I'm going to run on it. He probably knew that he wasn't actually going to build it, but he used it to get him elected.
Yeah, didn't he like kind of in a roundabout way in one of his recent rallies say something about how
I couldn't do it?
How he scoffed at how his followers thought that Mexico was going to pay for it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they still believe it. Oh, if Trump had just gotten elected to another term, Mexico would have paid for it, even though there's absolutely no legal precedent. Or that's exactly what he said. He said there was no, not exactly, I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said there was no legal avenue to where he could actually make Mexico pay for the wall. But then you have Biden, who's like, he goes, well, we're not going to build this wall. And you get this idea that like he's welcoming to immigrants, but he's not in the same way that Obama is. Like you never notice how they never actually say the Democratic Party never actually says how they really feel about immigrants coming over the border. You ever notice how they say that? They go, well, if they're in trouble and they need asylum, they're more than welcome. Like they always like
then
put it
fix
in
the
like,
asylum system.
Yeah, so they always put it in like a little caveat, like, well, immigrants are welcome as long as some abstract reason. Right. That's how Democrats kind of get around this idea that they're like pro open borders. Like this idea that like Biden or Obama was like they were like pro open borders. That's fucking nonsense. That's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
As you could tell by the fact that Obama was the one that built those cages that Trump supposedly put all the people in.
It wasn't supposed that he did.
I'm sorry.
And,
yes, he did.
Yeah, and they weren't taken out of those cages when Biden came into office. Just people stopped talking about it.
Right, because now the cages are good.
Yeah.
Or
they have. Yeah. Now the cages are all inclusive.
Isn't it kind of like the whole the FDR defense?
Oh, you talking about the internment camps?
Yeah, I don't know if you did you learn about the internment camps in school?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did as well, but it was kind of like this really short, abbreviated topic of like.
Well, we did it because we were scared, Dan.
Oh yeah, of course, yes, because those.
But when the Nazis did it, it was bad.
Because those dirty Japs were gonna infiltrate us from the inside.
Yeah. So the new border wall project will cost about $1.85 billion, which will come from the Department of Defense's budget. The project will include 18-foot high ballards, gates, cameras, fiber optic, and closed-circuit television equipment, and erosion and drainage control. Thank God.
Oh, thank God for the drainage control.
Yeah.
We gotta send all that filthy water back south of the border.
Yeah. The expected outcome of the new border wall construction is unclear, as some experts and critics argue that it will not be effective in stopping illegal immigrants or drug trafficking. So here's my thing. I'm 100% okay with securing the border as long as we also fix the actual immigration system.
Correct.
It is. I don't see how people look at the idea that millions of people are trying to find a pathway to the American dream in America as a negative thing. But we need to get these people here. And I don't want to use the word assimilated. I think that's kind of dirty. I don't like that. Like it makes it sound like the American idealist the idea of being an American, like in a cookie cutter thing, and it sounds like very dystopian in a way where it's like,
you're gonna come here, Corey. Learn the language.
Learn the language. You got to be a Christian. You got to be baptized.
Yeah. I was just going with the language route, as if like say America took a shit and you had to leave and like go to the Netherlands. Like, God damn it, you need to learn Dutch. Like,
well, fuck,
learn Dutch overnight. Yeah, I hate that shit too.
But I think that a secure border coinciding with a more efficient approach to getting these people in here versus the bullshit catch and release programs, or the bullshit just send them back because they're just going to try again. And, and then let's say 10 come to the border, 8 get caught, 2 make it in. You send the 8 back 100 miles. And now they're in the same position as 10 more people are. And now you have 18 coming. And then 6 make it across. And then you take the 14 and you send them back. And then you have 24 coming to the border. And then 6 make it across. And then you send the 18 back. And then you have 28 coming to the border. And that's literally what's been happening on our fucking border for the past 20 or 30, 40, maybe even 50 years now at this fucking point.
Well, and that's just it, Corey. And that's exactly why
instead of sending them back, find the ones that are like, oh my God, you have all of your paperwork. Stamp, welcome to America. You're an American citizen. Go find yourself a job and find your American dream.
But what you just said about the exponential growth of the folks at the border, that's exactly why no president's done anything about it, or no administration's done anything about it, because they can just keep shipping them. Oh, it'll be the next guy's problem. We'll just hold it off. We'll just keep building it up until the next guy comes in.
Every problem in America is based on a 2-year or 4-year time scale, because it's all
kick
about
it down the road. Kick it down the road. Can we make this work for 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 more years? And then you got some fucking paper pusher who's, I don't have a problem with, they're just doing their job, going in and going,
what's up, right now?
According to my calculations, we can absolutely keep kicking immigrants out. Yeah, we could definitely keep kicking immigrants out for another 12 to 16 years, which would make it so much, it's like, that's exactly what it is. And then each party acts like they're doing something about it.
Right.
From a party apparatus perspective. It's
I like the talk that we had the lowest border crossings when Trump was president.
Oh, that's
because he just kept kicking them out. And then guess what? Biden has a more lenient border policy, and now they're all here. They all just waited in the wings. They didn't disappear. These people don't just fucking disappear.
I didn't have an issue with that was the issue that I had with Trump's build that wall. I didn't have an issue with building a wall essentially in principle, but we all knew what it meant. It was just another barricade. Even let's just say he had actually completed that wall from the fucking Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico, wall all the way down. It's still just another Band-Aid on the actual fucking problem. That was the issue I had with the wall rhetoric.
Yeah. It was a Band-Aid equivalent to, let's just, instead of tackling the exorbitant price issue with college, let's just give all these 18-year-olds whose brains aren't fully developed loans. Instead of tackling the actual medical care system in our country that's the most expensive in the world, let's just tax people more to have them pay for it instead of actually fixing the root cause. That's what the government likes to do, just put Band-Aids on things.
And print more money, have the Fed print more money, give it to the corporations, make sure they don't fail, too big to fail, and off we go.
And off we
This
go.
is why when people want to talk about, we got our buddy on Facebook that I've broken up with now. We got our buddy on Facebook that just wants to keep telling me why Republicans are worse than Democrats. He wants to keep telling me why Republicans are worse than Democrats. And he's having, like, these people, this is the issue with social media in general. Everybody's having an argument that I'm not having, that you're not having. We're trying to actually make a deeper point, but they have to come back with, it's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. God damn it. It's fucking both their faults. The system doesn't goddamn work. All they do is kick the can down the road. That's the entire basis of our federal government. Kicking the can down the road, making it the next person's problem. Let's just hang on for one more day. Hang on for one more day, whether it be militarily, whether it be fiscally. Let's just hang on for one more day. Let's grow the GDP a little bit more. Let's lie about jobs numbers. Let's lie about unemployment numbers. Let's lie about, how thriving the middle class is, or whatever the issue of the day is, and we'll just make it the next person's problem. We'll go in. I'll become a presidential administration. I'll leave. I'll charge you $125,000 fucking dollars a speech at Harvard or wherever for a commencement ceremony. Or if you're in Congress, I'll get my congressional job. I'll lobby for this place for however long I'm here. I'll either invest in that company and stay in office and just keep making more money and keep making more money and keep making more money, or I'll lobby for this place and then they'll give me a fucking job, a cushy ass job when I'm out so that I can keep building my own wealth. And both fucking parties do this shit and they work together to do it. So when somebody comes to me and they tell me Democrats are worse for this reason and Republicans are worse for this reason, you're having an argument that I don't want to fucking have.
Hey, you're focusing on the micro. We're focusing on the macro.
You stay there and look at the trees. Corey and I are going to enjoy the forest. Fuck you.
Attaboy.
Man, we should pull that rant.
Should we talk about the voting process in America?
Oh, that's a good way to end the show, because this one's kind of fun, at least.
Yeah, we don't have a banner for it.
That's okay.
So there's a pretty prominent journalist who's local here to Detroit. His name is Charlie LaDuff. He wrote a couple books. He's been on national media. He's been in different news outlets all over the country. And he made a post recently about our whole voting system. And I'm going to read his post. And he goes, Janet used to live in my house 25 years ago. She moved to Texas. I've informed the Michigan Secretary of State and my city clerk of this at least a half a dozen times. Nevertheless, in the last 5 years, I have received in the name of Janet at least 7 absentee ballot applications, her voter ID card, and today, instructions on how to vote early. If they want people to believe in the results, then election officials are going to have to work harder, follow the laws they swear to uphold, and do their damn jobs.
So, I just want to give my initial thoughts on this. First of all, elections are conducted by the state. So you have 50 different ways in which elections are conducted. So we can really only speak for this, which is Michigan, which is our home state, which we voted in our entire voting lives. So this is just
and we're not election with stolen shills.
No. This is just one out of 50 different elections that each presidential candidate has to register for to actually get on the ballot and so on. So I have no reason not to believe that. Like, why? First of all, if you knew who Charlie LaDuff was,
in the actual post, he shared a photo of like the mayor.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to lie. He's not making shit up. He was actually one of the people that was in Detroit at one of the polling precincts that was saying, dude, look, there was no fucking fraud here. Like, I was here the whole time. There was absolutely no fraud. And it was actually the precinct where people actually showed up demanding to be let in. Okay. It was actually a pretty big deal here locally.
Oh, at Cobo Hall.
At Cobo Hall, or it's not Cobo Hall anymore. No, it's like
No.
the PNC Center or whatever
Is
the
it the
fuck it
PNC
is.
or the TCF Center? What's one of the two?
TCF. I think it's TCF. Either way, we're always going to call it Cobo Hall. But so so he was there talking about like there was no fucking.
It's like it's Pine Knob, not DTE.
Yeah, there was. Well, it is actually Pine Knob now. There was he was the guy there. He was in there. I think wasn't he one of the people that was actually counting the votes? Wasn't he a poll worker? I thought he was. Why else would he have been in there? So yeah, I'm almost positive Charlie LaDuff was one of those. And so he's one of these people that's saying, look, at least what I saw in this one precinct where people thought some chicanery was going on, I can tell you definitively there was no chicanery going on. Charlie is one of these people that I don't know what his politics are. I really don't. I don't even know if he knows. We've been watching him for a really long time. I cannot tell you that he's a liberal. I cannot tell you that he's a conservative. He is really, really good at being politically
I know that
ambiguous.
he voted for Whitmer.
Yeah, okay.
But I know that he is one of the largest voices that is criticizing her.
Yes.
In her handling of the nursing homes when it came to the deaths of
and the Flint water situation, the reaction to the Flint water situation. So like, just because he votes for somebody doesn't mean he's not willing to shit on them when they fuck up. I think that Charlie LaDuff is remarkably politically ambiguous. It's really tough to nail him down. I think that's a good thing. It's actually what makes me like to read his stuff and watch his stuff because I just don't know. I don't know which side he's going to roll in on. So he goes in during the 2020 election as one of these vote counters, and he says, look, there was nothing weird going on here regardless of what anybody says. But then he comes out with this, Corey, where he's getting mail for a woman getting her ballot, getting her instructions on how to vote early for this person that he doesn't know. Now, when you look at that, I can just see the fucking election was stolen people going, see, this is proof that there's some vote stealing going on here. But then you look at that
and then you could also see a bunch of the people going, oh, he's just an election denier.
Exactly. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it just goes to the bullshit binary thing where everyone just runs to one side or the other based on a topic that has a lot more nuance than people like to actually admit that it does.
Right. When the reality is that Charlie got these things and like, say it wasn't Charlie, say it was Joe Schmo down the street. Just because they get the stuff and could commit voter fraud, how the hell are you supposed to tell who they're going to commit voter fraud for?
Right.
Like, how do you know that Charlie's a Trump supporter or like, it's obviously just him getting the wrong mail. But to your point, Corey, like, isn't that something you should probably clean up to where like extra ballots just aren't going out to people that get mailed in?
It pisses me off that how like entrenched everything is to where it's like, why would the Democrats not want to make the voting process, instead of just brushing it off and calling anyone who has any questions about it, just, oh, you're an election denier, and actually try to solidify our democratic process and make it more legitimate. I'm not saying it's not legitimate, but you could always make it more legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, how many people? I mean, honestly, though, like, what are the odds that somebody like Charlie LaDuff, who's been reporting on elections forever, would be the person that would get like somebody else's ballot?
It's a good thing because he's bringing attention to something like this. And like, honestly, like again, I don't believe that there was the election fraud that people are trying to say there was on a mass scale, but there are loopholes and gaps that could absolutely be fixed. And I'm sick and tired of the idea that just in making that simple statement puts you in one camp or the other. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way, because, you know what I mean? It takes millions of hands in the pot, whether it's the poll workers, the official counters, then there's the electoral college people, and then it all gets counted and audited and then sent to the fucking house and at the Capitol and then and DC, and then it all gets audited and counted again, and all of these things happen to where, like, look at the Nord Stream pipeline, something that was under lock and key. There was leakers about it. There's leakers about every single goddamn thing. If there was actual fraud on a mass scale like that, someone would have came out about it. Rocks were overturned, things like that were done time and time again with all of the court cases that Trump brought to the table. But why not try to perfect the imperfect system where you do have some people, like it could be something as simple as really conservative parents have a son who's really liberal and he's off at college and his absentee ballot gets sent to their house and they just fill it out for the Republican Party, or vice versa. Those things, to unequivocally say that those things don't happen, is sticking your head in the fucking sand. And let's do everything in our power to stop those nickels and dimes of fraudulent stuff happening in our country.
And that's what drives me nuts, is this idea that Republicans are like, so it's like, so every illegitimate ballot was used to vote for Democrats, every single one.
Right.
That's the part that's like, this just doesn't compute to me. Like, there's illegitimate ballots, like what Charlie's talking about. Like, Charlie's a good guy. He's obviously not going to use this ballot
and ultimately,
to give off an extra vote.
Let's talk about real quick. So, like, there are still things, stopgaps and stuff in place that would stop that. If he got that ballot
and tried to use it,
he filled it out and signed it with some random signature, that signature would still have to match Janet's signature that's in the database from 25 years ago, almost damn near exactly. And if it didn't, it would get thrown out. So when you vote with an affidavit in the state of Michigan, when you vote in an affidavit when you don't have an ID and you sign that affidavit, that signature has to match the same signature that you gave in person at the Secretary of State when you signed for your license. And if it isn't similar, that vote gets thrown out. So there are still stopgaps in place.
You mean when you go to Secretary of State, which
to get your driver's license, and then they're like, "Do you want to be a registered voter?" And you go, "Yeah." And
no, I don't think it's even for your driver's license. I think when you go to get your voter ID card.
Yeah, well, you sign.
You register to vote.
Yeah, but I think when you sign, I think you just check the vote or check.
You don't remember doing this? I had to go in and actually register to vote when I turned 18. It was a completely different process.
It isn't like that anymore, I don't think.
Well, you get your driver's license when you're 16. You can't vote until you're 18.
Yeah. So you have to sign something again when you're 18 to do it.
Right.
Yeah, when you're 16, the license is different, but
that's your voter registration.
So I was riding dirty and did my own thing until I was 18 when I got my license.
Okay, so you fucked up.
So when I didn't fuck up. Me fucking up would have been getting caught. But the statute of limitations is far gone, so they're not going to nail me for any of that shit now. But
you're just not a good Christian, Corey.
I'm not the best Christian, no, but Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, does forgive me. When you go to vote, it's still the signature. They use the signature you put on your ID for your voter registration. And that's the signature that they go off of.
I feel like we're arguing semantics here.
We are. But those are but these semantics are, and the lack of knowledge of them is what gives people cockamamie fucking conspiracies in their brain that anyone could just vote for anyone. When as evidence also in our state is, you remember when what was Chief Craig, and then there was like 3 other Republicans that were running for governor, and they all used the same PR company, who was a company that was collecting signatures for them to get their name on the ballot through the petitions, and they were all just combining names for the same 3 people. And you remember, and then like 250,000 of those names were found to be invalid. It's because those names didn't match the signatures that were given at Secretary of State.
Yeah. They better be, if they don't match, they better be goddamn close.
Yeah. So there's things I think we can do to fix these things, and without invading on someone's privacy and what their vote is. Like, honestly, like my personal opinion, what I think they should do is, because every single ballot that you sign comes with a number, right? You know how they get always like, oh, your ballot number is such and such.
Yep.
When you do your ballot, it should have nothing to do with numbers, nothing to do with names, but you should get a little ticker that says what ballot you were, that you can hold on to, that after all the auditing and everything is done down the road, have a database where you could just type in ballot number here and you could type it in and then it just tells you what you voted. And then you could actually do your own audit on your ballot. Because if you just type in a random number, you're not going to know who that voter was. You're not going to know what their political stance was and how you think they were going to vote. You would just have a random number and it would tell you what the vote was, and that information isn't going to do shit for you anyways.
And here's the thing: you have to actually count on the American public to be responsible. But in a perfect world, like that could.
If someone doesn't give a shit, then it's the way the system is now.
But that ticker could it could also be used as like a receipt, right? So if like your ballot gets audited, like I have my receipt, it's right here.
Yeah. Yeah, you could go and check and they'd be like, well, this ballot, and this ballot, these numbers there's discrepancies. And then you could go and look and you'd be like, oh shit, that's mine. And then you call the number. Like that was actually my ballot, this and that. I have the receipt here and da 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 da.
Nobody's gonna do that though. Like you think people are like us?
No,
like people
like
I
wouldn't.
Just go,
I wouldn't either.
Just go and vote.
I wouldn't. But this gives the people who are skeptical, help them quell any sort of like questions they have regarding the election process. And it creates accountability because at the same time, no one's going to try to stuff ballots in some weird way because they're like, fuck, someone might have this receipt that they just might check.
Well, if everybody just had voter ID, Corey.
You know what? I also think that's bullshit because of the fact that sometimes people don't have an ID. I don't like the idea that they use race. And so that's another thing about it too, right? Race gets convoluted into this and Democrats just go, well, a lot of black people don't have IDs. And it's like, well, that's super fucking racist. Like, just assume black people don't have IDs. Like, that's just as racist as any of the shit that people on the left right are saying.
So, like, the thing that drives me nuts about the voter ID argument is, like, the people that are, like, pro-voter ID, it's like, well, you gotta have an ID to buy booze, and you gotta have an ID to do this and this and this.
But
and I go, none of those are constitutional rights. None of those things are constitutional rights. You have a constitutional right as an American citizen to vote regardless of whether or not you have a fucking ID to prove who you are. How do you fix that in 2023, 2024 coming up? I don't really have an idea.
Receipts, Dan. Fucking receipts.
Hold on to your voting receipt. What's so funny is like old women, regardless of race, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, they would all be like, well, I got my voter receipt. I better put this in my handbag in case I need it.
They end up on the wrong website and they just get their identity stolen. And then they blame Biden.
I could just see some grandkid.
So there's pitfalls. There's obvious pitfalls to this idea.
Some grandkid going through his grandma's purse and like after she passes away, going, Jesus Christ,
using it to roll up a split.
All these fucking voter ID receipts in your purse.
16-year-old like, prick ass grandson is using your voter receipt to roll up a spliff.
I've been collecting these since 1971.
2023.
I have nothing else.
It's frustrating that Democrats go, nope, nothing to see here. Everything's fine when there is fraud. Is it fraud that will affect the outcome of a election? No, I don't think so.
But
why not?
There's also fraud on both sides.
Yeah, why not better the system? Why not help diminish any sort of second guesses people have in a democracy? Because democracy is so important in this country.
Don't you think that's interesting though? About like, we're gonna use Trump supporters because it's been like the biggest one ever. But like, you could go back to 2000 and do Bush Gore as well. But like, do you find it interesting how like the people that claim voter fraud and like that the election was stolen, like they can't even fathom the idea that like somebody would place a fraudulent vote for Trump out of 172 million votes or whatever the hell, or out of 72 million votes.
of them.
None of them.
For Trump.
None of them placed a fraudulent vote for Trump. Not a
That's blasphemy.
single one.
That's blasphemy. How dare you?
It's just so asinine. But you know, even if you go back to Bush Gore 2000, like
the perforations.
The Democrats were screaming voter fraud then. It's like this isn't a new thing.
What's her name? Oh fuck, what's her name? The girl from Georgia who still hasn't conceded.
Stacey Abrams?
Stacey Abrams. She was claiming voter fraud. If you remember, okay, no, you don't have to go back to 2000. 2016, fucking Hillary was like, he's an illegitimate president. He's an illegitimate president. They were saying it for 4 goddamn years. Illegitimate president. It was the Russians.
I'm aware.
Yeah. And then Trump does it, and they're like, oh, well, that's treason. You guys want to smoke some polls? You want to call it? We can save the polls for next week if you want.
This was a dog shit episode.
This was a great episode, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you feel differently. How do you feel, Bell?
Oh, I tried to. Oh, there he is. Ah, fuck. All right, Bell, you add yourself. There you go.
What are you guys doing?
Our fucking best.
Our worst.
No, I think this episode is great. What do you think, Bell?
I think it's an 11 out of 10.
Yeah, see,
all right.
Bell's got my
11 out
back.
of 10, boys.
His internet hasn't worked half the time, but
I'm
just kidding.
It was great.
It averages out to a 7 mid, as the Brits would say.
Yeah. It worked
Bell's
out.
Danger Noodle went back in its sheath.
Nah, she's camouflaged.
She's actually.
That's her, right?
He's like, I think there's a snake in there. I don't know. Her camouflage is good as shit.
There she comes. You can see
There's a snake in my boots.
Now she's going to hide because you started talking about her.
Yeah. Sounds like she's a goddamn Republican.
Yeah.
Tell the people where they can find us, Corey.
Okay.
Hurry.
All right. The Assertive Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. So, guys, you really do need to subscribe fast, and you need to subscribe hard as you can, and tell
as
your
hard
friends.
as you would vote.
Yeah, just vote and subscribe hard as shit. Because the doomsday clock is at 90 seconds, so we could all be dying by the time this show ends. So you don't want your very last grievance. I can't think of the word right now. It's right on the tip of my tongue. My lethologic is getting the best of me. You don't want your biggest regret to be, fuck, I didn't subscribe to Libservative before you see a mushroom cloud. So
You went a long way for that one, Corey.
I know. If I would remember the word regret. No regrets on that one, Dan.
For Bell the Bodysnatcher, he as always has been Corey Walsh.
And he's Dan Griffin.
This has been Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy in the worst way imaginable. Until next time, we are out of here.
Peace.